Hey guys, in this episode, I interview Christian J. Fischer. Man, Christian is incredible. He has been in the food service industry for over 35 years. He's a chef, he's an educator, he's an author, he's a business trainer and podcaster. And in this episode, we discuss a number of topics from elevating yourself from a chef to an entrepreneur, what it means to make that transition from working in your business versus on your business. We talk about the future of the restaurant space. We talk about what's coming. We talk about what you should be paying attention now and in the next couple years. Christian has a very interesting way of how he approaches helping restaurant owners grow their businesses. And I think he shares a lot of information I think that you can really gain if you're looking to move from one store onwards. Because, hey, when you're going from one store to two, you're literally doubling the size of your business overnight. And there's a lot that goes into that. He's got a lot of insights around this. We also talk about the future of the restaurant space and how AI might be playing a role in that, on how AI might be suggesting certain places based upon your dietary needs or restrictions. We talk about so many interesting topics that I really think you're going to enjoy. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey, my name is Brett Linkletter, CEO and co-founder of Dineline, a restaurant growth agency. We help restaurant brands of all sizes grow and scale to new heights, whether that means opening new stores or increasing revenue at an existing location. We have a done-for-you model where we take care of all the work for our clients on the marketing front, and we also have a unique software solution called Dishio, which allows owners to showcase their restaurants in the best light possible online, while also turning guest interactions into data to increase profits. Right now, you're listening to our podcast, Restaurant Misfits, where we'll discuss all things related to restaurant marketing, management, and everything else in between growing a restaurant business. Scaling a restaurant today takes much more than having grit and hustle. In this age, it's about utilizing the newest technology, educating yourself on new platforms and trends, and having a deep understanding of how the industry is changing. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to speed with the latest and greatest through interviewing the biggest and the best in the restaurant industry. As always, we appreciate you for being here, and we hope you enjoy the show. Cheers. Christian, how are you?
Good. How you doing today, Brett?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I was really enjoying the 4th of July break recently because man, work has been a lot, and I actually just got a new puppy recently, and
Congratulations.
between thank you. Between the puppy and we're also remodeling my kitchen actually in my apartment. It was just like work, the kitchen remodel, the puppy. She's like playing in the construction with the construction workers half the time. I'm like, I just need like a moment where we can hopefully get the construction in order, plus get the puppy a little more organized. But yeah, man, I'm doing really well. I'm very excited to chat with you.
And congratulations on the new addition. My little puppy is sleeping there. She's 14 now, so she became our office mascot.
Oh,
So
amazing.
she's hanging out with me here in the office today.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, she was here and I got rid of her because the last podcast I did, she was kind of like acting a little crazy. So she's still only 13 weeks, so she's like sleeping and then she wakes up and then she's just like insane. So
100%.
yeah.
I love that.
But Christian, I'm very excited to chat with you, man, because you have a lot of you have so much interesting experience here. I think we're going to discuss. You also, I know you're a former chef. Are you still a chef also? You're still a chef also.
I think it's like everything else. So if you want a chef, you will always be a chef. So I'm still in the food industry, play a lot. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm just a cook. Yes.
Yeah, no, but you're a cook and you're doing a lot of different things, and I'm excited to chat with you about all these things. Well, I guess for everyone who doesn't know much about you, though, can you give us just like a quick introduction? I mean, just like you were saying, I know you came from Austria. Tell us a little about your story and how you came to be where you are today.
That's really good. So first off, thanks a lot for having me. We're really excited to kind of collaborate with you, and really excited for this conversation. So my name is Christian. I'm native Austrian. So if you haven't picked it up on the accents, I grew up in Austria. My parents had a hotel. So I grew up in the food industry, and my dad made me become a chef. He says, you know what, you need to be a chef, because in order to be a chef, you always have people which want to have good food. There's always going to be work, and you can do so many different things. At the time I was 14, I thought he was out of his mind. And now I think he's a genius, but started in the industry as I was 14. I did a 6-year apprenticeship, graduated on the top of my class. I became the second youngest European master chef at the time. I opened up my first restaurant at 19, had 6 by the time I was 23. And then a company named Nestle came and said, hey, we love your restaurant concept. We want to buy it and bring it to the US and make it the concept for Stouffer hotels at the time, for the F&B. And I was like, this just makes no sense. I'm not really sure. Then they wrote me a check and offered me a job for 20 years. Came with them to the US, worked with them for 18 years, did 17 countries in 18 years for them.
Wow.
And then they asked me to move back with them to Brazil or to Austria. And at the time, I was married. So my wife is American. I've adopted children from China. So we had some kids at the time. So, I had to say no. And one of my customers at the time was Compass Group, which was, or is still the largest food service company. And I was the chief culinary officer for them for 18 years. At the height, managed $3.5 billion in food and beverage. And then COVID happened, and I always had a side hustle. I had a culinary nonprofit, which is the Culinary Leadership Academy, where we teach chefs life skills and stress management. We started in 2011 because I lost a really good friend of mine. And then a friend called me and said, hey, Christian, we need to start something to give back to the industry during COVID. So we hosted free mastermind classes to teach people life skills. And if they want to start a business, so we help them with business.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, somebody said, I want to write a book. I says, oh, you know what? I wrote books. We taught people how to write books, since I have 34 books on the market. And
34 books?
Yeah, we started a publishing company, which is the premier hospitality publishing company.
Oh my God.
And what we do is we teach chefs how to write a book in 8 weeks. And we help them to write a book, not the book. So we have a little bit of 400 students which went through our program, and it became a little bit of everything. So then I started a food co-op. So we have now a GPO. I support a few international companies with technology, a company which makes a really cool product, which is an encapsulated oil molecule. I work with a company out of Israel where we 3D print steaks. I work at a company out of Singapore, which has some really cool new ways of looking at plant-based products. So we're doing a little bit of everything. Wow. And today, out of COVID, we built 16 different businesses.
Oh my God.
Managed as a company. So, and by default, we became a media company. So we have a media company now. We have our consulting division. We have now a talent agency where we help celebrity chefs come into the US market. And just most recently, we started our first ice cream company called Chillcraft Creamery, Handcrafted Happiness. So we make CBD and THC ice cream for the marketplace.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I love it. So COVID was pretty good for you guys then in that sense. It sounds like a lot came from COVID.
Yeah, for me, I always said COVID happened for me, not to me, because COVID really gave me the opportunity to do what we do. And, we 4 years after, and, like so many other chefs, if you want to do something, do it now, because I should have done it 10 years ago, not during COVID. But COVID was really good to us.
Wow. But that's cool, man. I love to hear that, because obviously the whole food space was pretty brutal during COVID, obviously. Us too as well. I mean, it was man, we almost broke. I mean, we were like, I think at the time we only had like 14, 15 employees. We got down to like a total of 6 people. I mean, it was brutal. I felt so bad. We had so many new people that just joined the team. And then, I mean, what do we do, right? It was just a brutal situation. We had clients leaving left and right that, there was nothing we could do. I mean, they were closing down. It was awful. It was sad. But man, this is very interesting. So you mentioned, okay, you're teaching chefs life skills and stress management. What does that look like? What kind of life skills are you guys typically teaching?
So there's a few things. Just look at really simple industry stats. 9 out of 10 restaurants fail. It's not because they don't make amazing food. Is the chefs or the culinary schools never teach what goes with it. HR piece, the finance piece, the people management piece. And then also how to design and build out a kitchen. None of that is ever taught in the industry. And in my lifetime, I had the opportunity to do a lot of that for some different companies. And, in my years with Compass Group, we had about $400-500 million in projects running all the time. And we designed spaces, we designed concept, we designed franchisees and franchises. So for us, I took all of that learning because I had the opportunity to do that as a career. And I want to teach chefs because I honestly feel that every chef is one skill, one connection, or one strategy away to have a total different lifestyle and a total different career. And we all need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves. And that's what we provide for the industry.
I love that, man. And by the way, I would totally agree. I mean, we tell people that all the time. I mean, we're all in the marketing front, obviously, but it's interesting because a lot of people tell me, I don't get it. You know, we got great food, we got great service. Everyone says they like us, but we're just not growing. We're not, I mean, the bottom line is not moving at all, or we've been stuck here since COVID, or we've never been back to where we used to be pre-COVID. And I think you're right. It's usually like one or two things away from really to get to the next step. I guess, what do you think are the most common pitfalls you see in that area? What is typically holding someone back?
You know, I think our industry, and you probably see it, you know, as much as we do, chefs, a very unique breed of people.
Yeah.
I always compare ourselves to the military. I had the opportunity. My father-in-law was a senior master sergeant for the Air Force. So I spent a lot of time with the military. And I always said, oh my God, chefs are just like people from the military. You know, you don't ask any questions. You show no fear. You're going to get it done. And doesn't matter what happened, you get the shit done. And it's perceived a weakness to raise your hand and say, yeah, guys, I need help. So what I feel and what we teach people, so if we come to in one of our mastermind groups, you know, we have 12 members usually in the groups, and we have somewhere between 150 and 200 years of experience with all the people in the room. So everybody has unique circumstances. Everybody had to overcome a unique experience. So if you're in that same, there's a very good chance if you raise your hand and say, hey, I don't really understand the difference between scaling and growing in my restaurant. And somebody could say, oh, I can do, because I thought it was this. You know what? I lost it because I didn't understand what it was. But now I learned it. It took me 3 years to learn it. Let me show you how to do it in a conversation. Yeah. So for us, what I think that the number one thing for chefs is they think they know it all. And they feel like they need to do it all on their own. Not true. Get yourself people which are better in things than you are. And chefs also think we're great marketing people. We're not. You know, I have never seen a great chef marketing.
I agree. You know? I can 100% agree to that.
So you know that. And so for me, I think that's one of the pitfalls that the industry looks it up on chefs, that it's a weakness for me to say, you know what? I need some help here. Not just do I need help. I need to get myself a mentor. I need to get myself a coach, whatever you want. I currently have 3 mentors. If somebody would explain to me that they can help you scale much faster than on your own, I would have done this 20 years ago. So that's how we support the industry.
I love that. I love that, man. It sounds to me like also like, I mean, I totally agree. It's just a lot of chefs working also too much on their business versus in it, or in it versus on it, right? I mean, I talked to a lot of people in the past, but a lot of owners have told me going from 1 store to 2 stores is one of the biggest struggles, because they're doubling the size of their business. And they're also learning that, wait, I'm one person. I can't be in 2 stores at once, right? Holy shit. I gotta somehow figure out how to replace myself. And that's a first big step for a lot of people, right? I mean, would you agree? It's like you're doubling overnight, basically.
Yes. Spot on. I'd be working with a young lady. She has a really cool concept. Mom is Puerto Rican. She's Peruvian. And so she made this healthy market type concept. I go there all the time. Love the flavors. Love how they're looking at food. And she wants to scale. And as we started working with her, she says, I don't think I'm ready to scale because I don't want to let go. What do you mean you want to let go? I don't want to teach them my stuff because then they know my stuff.
Oh my God.
I don't want to teach them my system because then they know my systems. And I think the hardest thing for chefs is to go from 1 to 2 to let go. Because if you try to manage, you know, you heard it said, you know, the person which chases 2 rabbits catches none. It's just really letting go. And I think that's an industry specific thing. And she said it straight up. He said, I don't think I'm ready because I'm not ready to let go.
That's so interesting. But you know what's interesting about what you're saying? It's I totally agree. They really think they know it all. I talk to people all the time that say, you know what, I've never needed marketing. I've always been so good. And I was like, well, you know, what's the best you've ever done? Like, what's your best month? 120 grand. Now, for some people, hey, that's great. Others, that's nothing, right? I mean, like nothing, right? So it's all relative. And I think, to your point, you don't know what you don't know. You got to seek some help. I personally, man, I don't even know what total we've spent. Our business over the last 10 years, we probably spent close to 300 grand when it comes to coaching, consulting. I mean, it's not even me and my partner at this point. It's not even like a question of whether we're gonna do coaching or not in the future. We just will. We don't know something, we're gonna hire to fix that problem
Yeah.
we have, or we're gonna learn how to do it and then teach someone else, right?
So
It's a
I think
standard.
that's what makes us, yeah, I think that what makes us unique because we're looking at the same way. We have an annual budget. We say it's $250,000. We belong currently to a mastermind, $75,000.
Yep.
Okay. And I also realized if people don't pay, they don't pay attention. I started as I went to my very first mastermind at the time, it was $300 a month. I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, how am I going to afford $300 a month?
Yeah.
Um, and the information they gave me was great, but $300 a month wasn't a pain point, you know. Now, we pay 75 grand to be part of that. We need to get ourselves to the event. So it's really $120,000 mastermind. Okay.
Yeah.
So you better believe it. There's a few guys there which, scaled. And when they scaled, I said, oh, we went from 8 million to 14 million. And I was like, how the fuck did you do that?
Yeah.
And they said, it's actually not that hard. And I think it's not, I think it's Tony Robbins who says, proximity is power. And
Yep.
it's so true. If you hang out with people which play a different level game, now I laugh about $300, $300 is stupid, but
Exactly.
the access it buys me, it's not about the money. Because if they give me advice, it's worth 100 grand, not 75 I'd be paying for it. And out of the 12 people which part of my group, 3 of us have 2 businesses together. And I think more is to come because you probably noticed that as you become more successful, your circle of friends becomes smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In my age group, I spent some time with a really good friend of mine. He's talking about retiring. I was like, what are you retiring? I'm talking about scaling. What do you mean
Yeah.
retire? And I think that's where I think we are a different breed.
Yes.
Or we just, we think differently. And so if you're asking me, I think that's just sets apart because you're the first guy I heard in a long time said, I spent 300 grand on bringing in somebody to learn something.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to scale.
Yeah, it's really interesting because my background was in e-commerce before. I was selling, stuff like sunglasses or whatever online. And the
Yep.
one thing I loved about e-com was, man, it's like it was like 20, I remember it was like 2016, 2017, 2018. Those 3 years, damn, if you had an e-commerce business and you had a decent product, you could scale through ads like no freaking other.
Yep.
And it was the glory days. I mean, dude, you could put up a pair of glasses online with a white background that said buy these and people would buy it and convert like really high, right? So it was
Because
the
he was the
glory
only guy
days.
doing it. Yeah.
And it was interesting because it was such a new industry. And I went from that industry, which was like there was something new every day, and everyone was coaching and teaching, and everyone was so open-minded to it. It was just the standard. And then I went to
Yeah.
restaurants, and to your point, I think I know it's an industry thing because no one in restaurants wants to like do anything new. And they're like, well, this has been our family business for the last 150 years, or this is how we do things. It worked 10 years ago. Why doesn't it work now? I'm like, is that a real question? Like, is that a real question? I mean, I'm serious. Like, it's wild to me. So I totally see what you're saying and I get it. And to be honest, I don't know a lot of other restaurant masterminds. I mean, I think what you're doing is really cool and unique, and I respect it because I see the need for it every day. I tell my sales reps all the time, we're not just selling a marketing service and advertising service to grow someone's company. We have to do a lot of business coaching and consulting in general just to get their head to wrap around what does it mean to have a cost per acquisition? What is a
Yep.
good profit margin? What does it mean going to have a higher profit margin because you have a higher revenue that month? I mean, there's these some of these basics that, to your point, yeah, a lot of these guys, it's hard to get their head to wrap around it, or even open up their head to be open-minded to learn these things. Really.
Yeah. I spot on. I couldn't agree with you more because if there's one thing COVID did to our industry is our consumer changed overnight.
Yeah.
And the way people consume restaurants today is different than it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
The way people consume experiences is different than pre-COVID. And in our restaurants, and even here with my office, we don't call ourselves food service professionals. We are architects of memories. Everything what we do is
Mm,
we help people create memories. And that's our slogan. We said we call ourselves architects of memories.
I love that,
Um,
by the way. That's so cool.
because we need to be memorable. And also we learned if you don't live on the phone, you don't exist. So that was really a big learning curve for me.
Yes.
Also, I'm from a generation, you just do it. Oh, if you build it, people will come. We built it, nobody came.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we said, oh,
Some
maybe
people
we
have
need
literally
to,
told me that before. And I'm
yeah.
like, come on, really?
And we were like, we need to build bigger. Oh, great idea. We built bigger, and still nobody came. And then we realized that we needed to become our own cheerleaders. And that's where our media company came from. I have 4 people now doing media for us because nobody does it for you. And I think that's where the restaurant industry has the biggest opportunity for leaps forward. There's some
Yes.
restaurants which do an amazing job, and obviously their bottom line shows it. I think the biggest challenge you currently have, if you are a family business, your restaurant came from 2 or 3 generations, I think that's going to be the toughest thing for you to scale than
Interesting.
starting something new, because there's too much history. And then history for me um, shows complexity, and complexity is the enemy of execution. So
Mm.
for me, too much history is usually a bad thing. And that's not just in the restaurant business, that's anywhere else. If you have a business and somebody has a lot of history around the business, that's usually the person which is the most difficult to manage. For me, a lot of history is complexity. Too much complexity prevents you from scaling.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting you mentioned that because I completely see that and feel that every day, honestly. You said the way that people consume experiences is different from pre-COVID. Talk to me about that. In what core ways would you say so?
So I use me as an example. My wife prefers a vegan lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she does eat, but I call her more a flexitarian. My kids are Asian. So when we go out to eat, we don't look that we go to one restaurant. So sometimes we go to 2 or 3. You know, we go to this teppanyaki place. We have some sushi as an appetizer. You know what? Then we go to this place called Nummies. It's a Vietnamese noodle bar. So we go and have some noodles and we eat something else. So
Mm.
I don't think there was in the last few years that we had appetizer, entree, and dessert in a restaurant. I think that's what changed for us. And
Mm.
then also we looking at now, because kids are really the drivers of where you go to eat. Because
Yeah.
if my kids are not happy, it's dinner is no fun. So they are really the decision makers where we're gonna go. And they all Gen Zs. So they want to go. Hey, I want to go this new place here because they do fusion. Hey, have you seen this place? They mix Pakistani food with Indian food with an Asian flair. We should go there. So I think that's where I think the difference is. Uh,
And question
like I
for
said,
you. How old are
yeah.
your kids, by the way?
So my oldest one, 27, youngest one is 13.
Okay. And so question, how are they finding these restaurants
They
to check out?
usually they find it from peers that they went somewhere, or they find it from social media, and
Yeah.
it seems TikTok is the place, and whatever the yellow one is, Spotify. No, what is the yellow one?
Snapchat.
Uh, Snapchat. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Honestly, Snapchat, I haven't heard even people mention it in a while, but that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, Snapchat obviously is still around. We don't do any advertising with it, but man,
No.
they're still kicking. Yeah.
My youngest daughter, she says, "Oh, we need to go to this place. I seen it in Snapchat. Somebody just sent me a snap about it." Um, and that's different. And then for my wife, what's really important there is how do we source? Hey, where do the protein comes from, and how do they treat the cow before they kill the cow? Kind of thing, that stuff. So that's
Totally.
important to her. So for us, all of that changed, and I also think consumers. Um, Pre-COVID versus now, I think now they have a lot bigger bullshit radar.
Mm.
It used to be pre-COVID, as you could say, oh, farm raised, honey stung chicken breast, whatever. And now they're saying, is it really farm raised? Where does it get it?
Yeah.
And I know they get from Cisco. Cisco is not farm raised. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think that's changing a little bit. And
Interesting.
I think that's for me the biggest one. I think people expect more out of restaurants than they used to.
I think you're probably right, honestly. I've noticed that too. I guess it's super interesting for me because like, okay, so I you mentioned earlier that you were gonna go to Brazil, I think, at
Mhm.
some point. So I actually live I'm more in Miami now, but my girlfriend's Brazilian and I've spent a lot of time
Yeah.
back and forth to Brazil. And it's been very interesting for me to see the differences in how the Brazilian restaurant market works and the
Mm.
technology they use and how Brazilians find restaurants to go to versus how
Yep.
Americans do. And I mean, one thing I'll say, which was a huge shocker to me, is like, I think when it comes to like technology in the restaurant space, Brazilians are way beyond the US, to be honest. Like, bold statement, but I
Agreed.
swear it's true. I mean, you think
Yeah.
about it, right? Like, man, 20 years ago, they were bringing the point of sale to the table to tap your credit card. The US just started doing this, what, like 5 years ago? Like, maybe.
And
But I mean, look,
yeah.
in Brazil, they did it because in Brazil, you have your credit card, you give it to the server, and if you let him walk away with it, he's not coming back, right? So it's a little different, but but so that's why they did it. But I've seen the most interesting fintech models and apps and just ways in how they operate. And what I've noticed too is back to your point of how the market is kind of closed-minded. What I've learned is it's the restaurant market in general, I think, is a little bit closed-minded to these new things. The American restaurant market, even more closed-minded,
Mhm.
to be honest.
Agreed.
Super interesting. Another thing I noticed in Brazil is okay, here in the US, if you want to like find a restaurant, you find a restaurant that you like, one of the first things you do is maybe look it up on Google and maybe look at the reviews, right? Super common practice. Well, um, Brazilians never even look it up on Google. I mean, maybe to get map directions, but it's not like a staple that they think about.
Yep.
It's more so like the Instagram newsfeed. So you see so much time and attention that goes onto this Instagram newsfeed. Now, restaurants here still do the same, but they're like, every single brand does this. And the servers use the Instagram to
Yeah.
display their items and talk about it at the restaurant even. So it's very interesting. But I don't know why this is the case. I don't know why Americans have I mean, I talk to people still every day that are still doing mailers, radio, television. I'm like, I can't even remember the last. I mean, the last no, I know the last time it was a Super Bowl when I watched a commercial. That's about it every year. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I love that. And for me also, we spent a lot of time in Asia. And
Mhm.
I think even Asia is a little bit further ahead, with robotic bus boys and all the other stuff they're doing. It's finally
Mm,
catching on. Yeah.
interesting.
I do think as in the US, we're very much steeped in tradition. And, um, especially if you do something new, a lot of people don't really take to it. It's the younger generation which really
Mm,
takes on. And so for me, if I really have to look at the crystal on where restaurants are going, I
yeah.
think hyper niche, hyper personalized. And I think if you could do that, you have a winner on your hand.
Yeah. What do you think when it relates to? I know you said your kids using Snapchat and they're using TikTok. You didn't
Mhm.
mention Instagram. Do
So
do you do you think that the new generation is not as interested in Instagram?
it's my kids tell me, oh, Facebook is for old people, Instagram is for business people, just like LinkedIn. They link them together, LinkedIn and Instagram, almost like the same.
No
And
way. Really?
Instagram
That's
is Instagram
wow.
is also a place to pick up people. And then, TikTok is where you get your news from, because my kids get all the news from TikTok.
Yeah.
And so it totally changes. And it's interesting, and you probably know that as a marketer, that we behave different on every platform we go to, even though we're the same person. But
Yes.
it's interesting how they're looking at it. Facebook is definitely for old people. Oh, that's your generation. Nobody goes on Facebook. And then Instagram. Oh, Instagram is so yesterday. Instagram is turning into Facebook.
Yeah.
And they don't like that Instagram and Facebook are one company.
Yeah.
And then so it's really my kid, TikTok, Snapchat is the two places they spend most of their time.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, it's interesting that they're associating Instagram like LinkedIn. I mean, I've never heard that, but honestly, it's I have a baby brother. He's 23. And I always ask him these questions because I'm always like just
Yeah.
curious, like what's going on. He doesn't care for Instagram either. I mean, it's like didn't think he even had an account for like 2 years. And I basically told him, I was like, can you make an account so I can like share stuff with you? Like, finally, you know? But God, it's so interesting what's happening. Well, talk to me. Let's go back to the chef versus entrepreneur thing, because I think that's a
Yeah.
very interesting point that, again, I think is a major pain point. I guess how do you talk to a chef who's so stuck in their ways, and not just being a chef and maybe being resistant to new technologies and all this new stuff, but how do you make that transition to more so being the owner of a business versus working in the business too much? What does that look
I
like?
mean, yeah, I mean, you said it earlier. I think the biggest challenge for chefs is to take that step back, to work on the business, not in it,
Yeah.
because the moment you work in it, you just gotten yourself a new job, um, and it's just a different job. You work for yourself, but it's still a job. So where
Yes.
we come from, chef to entrepreneurs, there is transferable skills anybody has. And it could be it's something you're interested in or something I love to do for fun. And we always tell chefs, what do people ask you the most about? And a good chef friend of mine, his name is Lawrence. Lawrence said to me, I've been a chef all my life. I had my first business on like home meal replacement 25, 30 years ago. He says, nobody knew about it. I did already home meal delivery. And he says, but when I go out and I talk to my friends, they talk to me about coaching because I'm a really good baseball coach. His
Mm,
son plays baseball. And he says, after he asked me that question, I paid attention. More people ask me about coaching than anything else.
interesting.
And he realized, he says, I'm really good coach. Maybe it is because I was a chef. I always you have to keep your eyes everywhere. You need to make sure people are at the right place, that they're doing the right thing, and people watch out overall for each other. And so he wrote a book about, coaching like a chef, teaching
Mm,
baseball or whatever his name, like a chef. And I have another good friend of mine who is a very successful consultant in the food service space. And then I honestly believe the reason he's so successful is because he goes in there and it's a really cool business model where they're saying, oh, we pay you XYZ money. And he says, whoa, 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 this is way too much money. How about we do this and you give me a little equity because then we both have skin in the game
mm,
and you don't need to manage me. I was like, people actually doing that? He says, yeah, I have 6 businesses. I own 5% there, 10% there. Um,
wow.
and I consult for them for equity. And he says, because I know, he says, as a chef, I have learned all of these different things. So for me, where the chef to entrepreneur movement we have is we want to bring new ideas, new thought process, and new individuals to the culinary space where chefs can say, I can do that. I know I would be really good at this. And we want them to start with, I don't like the term side hustle, but do something on the side which creates income and which creates income for very little work. How great would it be? And we using books as an example.
Mm,
So for me, we teach people how to write books. And I use book as an example. We want you to write a book, not the book. And how about if you have a book, 120, 150 pages, and it teaches people one single skill you're really good at? And how about that book gives you 300, 500 bucks on the side? It pays for a family vacation. It pays for your BMW rather than having a Chevy. Nothing against Chevy,
yeah. Yeah,
to
exactly.
upskilling, but which keeps paying for your lifestyle. And so you can have your income to do what you need to do, but build yourself a side hustle, which starts eventually paying for your lifestyle, because that's what I started doing. And there comes that point where hey, if I can make 100 grand working 5 hours a week, you know what? I could make 200 working 10 hours. I can make 300 working 15 hours. I can make 400 working 20 hours, which is less than I work today. And that's what we teach in our program.
Yeah.
We want to awaken the entrepreneur in every chef, because I think chefs by nature are entrepreneurs. It's just
Yeah.
the way the industry is. And they just need somebody to see in them what they don't see in themselves. And that's what our program is. We just
Yeah.
throw stuff at them and where they say, you know what? I really love that, because I honestly feel when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So let's stay in front of them and teach them valuable skills they can implement into actionable changes tomorrow.
No, that's awesome, man. I mean, so we actually wrote a book too in 2020. And it's a little outdated now because marketing changes, God, like every 6 months. Like, right? It's insane. Um, but it's what I noticed the moment we wrote a book. was our level of like authority in this industry just exploded. I mean, people
Yeah.
just trusted us more. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's an author. He's got
Yeah.
reviews on a book.
It,
People say
it's a very
stuff about
it's a
it.
very
Like,
simple psychological thing, because we don't like anybody better than we like ourselves. So a written word, if I read it to myself automatically. I put you up as an authority because you just confirmed with me, reading through me, that you're the authority. And
yeah.
then for me, that's one really cool side thing of the book. But what really gets me excited about writing a book, and have chefs write a book and entrepreneurs writing a book, on who you become writing the book.
Mm,
And if you wrote a book, you know exactly what goes into it. If you're not
yeah.
disciplined, it will never get on a shelf. If you have shortcuts, you will never get it on the shelf. If you are not true to who you are, people will call you out on it when the book is done. So for me, what I love about writing the book is the person you becoming writing
Yeah.
the book, not just the book itself. Because I honestly believe it makes you a better person just doing the process, even if the book never published it. And it makes you automatically a finisher. You're more, true to who you are as a person, and you're a lot more aware. So for me, the coolest thing about writing a book, and that's why everybody should do a book. In our program, we say that we want to help 1 million chefs out the next 10 years writing a book,
Hmm.
because it makes you a better person. It makes you an authority, and it gives you just awareness you wouldn't have. And for me, a book is the single best tool to become an overnight expert in anything you do.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. I think that's really cool. Um, so you said fusion is kind of like a big thing these days, and it's
Mhm.
becoming, well, okay, especially here in Miami, I'll tell you, it's hilarious because I had a friend that's visiting recently, and he's like, this is crazy. Everything in Miami is like Asian fusion. And like I never thought about it, but he's so right. And it's like, you get these Peruvian Japanese concepts, and then you get like something else that's just got some other Asian fusion, and it's almost becoming more and more of a thing, and it kind of just popped up here in Miami where everyone kind of does it, and I didn't
Yep.
even see it coming. It just happened all of a sudden overnight. Why is that happening? I mean, is this like a trend that's here to stay? You think it's only a trend? What are your thoughts?
So I honestly believe it's here to stay, and for two reasons. When I hear Asian in any food concept,
Yeah.
it for me it brings craftsmanship, because in doing Asian food really well, you need to be a good craftsman. So for me, that's why I think the Asian thing is. And then
Yep.
also, if you look at Asia, there's part of India. India is considered Asia. Asia is big,
It's
so
big.
it
Yeah.
and then also it makes things relatable, because for me, what a lot of great concepts do today, they tap into not just the psychology of the food itself, but also the sensory piece. And I
Yeah.
think having that Asian overlay maybe gives you that extra spice, that extra layer, that extra crunch, which provides that, um, you know, added layer of complexity to the dish. And then it also, for me, it's just, I think it just heightens the sensory experience.
100%. 100%. And the other thing you said is, look, 9 out of 10 restaurants fail. Like we all know it's a tough industry. But I guess like it's interesting because I was talking to another podcast, I was talking about this, but like there's plenty of restaurants here in Miami that just are incredible. Plenty that pop up that you think are gonna kill it, and then they're out of business in
Mhm.
6 months.
Yep.
I know for a lot of them, especially the new ones, that first year can be brutal, right? Um, sorry, I know for a lot of people, like it comes down to sometimes they haven't raised enough money, right? They raise just
Yep.
enough to launch, and then they have a staffing issue, they have a this issue, they have pitfalls that they didn't see coming, and then they're gone. But I
Yep.
guess what do you think are some of the core things you just need to think about during that first year? What are some of the main problems I guess people go wrong with? Because again,
Um,
it's like it's pretty wild here in Miami. It's like this.
yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
I love that question. That's a really good question, because I see it all the time. And for me, I'm very fascinated by that, because for me, I think I boil it down to three things. Um, they are really good cooks. They're terrible businessmen.
Hmm.
And being a great chef doesn't make you a good businessman. So number one. And the second thing is, people really don't understand finances. And a little success is very dangerous, because you feel like you want to do more. That's not what a restaurant is. So for
Hmm.
me, a restaurant, I looking at food cost is part of any restaurant. You know, the end of the night, okay, how did we do? What ingredient can we possibly cut out or bring into other dishes in order to keep our inventory manageable? Also controls, systems, standards. For me, that's missing. So for me, when I walk into a restaurant and see that they're struggling, you could see number one, no systems, no strategies, no tools, and they usually are taught by the tribal method. So question, you know, if you answer, number one, they're not good businessmen. Number two, they think they know it all and they're not really good in financially. And finally, the third one is that they don't have somebody who not just holds them accountable, and maybe you call in an accountability partner, but you need somebody who puts the brakes on. And if somebody says, oh, I want to do Wagyu beef tomorrow, have you thought about it? Is our consumers really looking for it? Is this something you want to do? Is it just you want to do to bond your chest? For me, is you need somebody who is the voice of reasoning, and every restaurant needs somebody. And
For sure.
for me, those are the three things. So no accountability. They really don't really truly understand financials in a restaurant, and they think they're good businessmen, but they just amazing
I mean,
chefs, not good businessmen.
what to you is a good profit margin in a restaurant? Like a great profit margin. What do you want? What do they want to aim for?
So, you know, I would say if you can be in the mid-high 20s, you do fantastic. You know, if there you can be, but a restaurant industry is usually a penny industry. And we always say you want to be in the tens, you know, low teens would be a great way to survive. But if you want to scale, you need to find a way to move into the 20s.
Got it. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this is kind of it's a good segue, but also at the same time, well, look, franchisees, for example. Okay, I've worked with a lot. I've worked with plenty of franchises, and I gotta just say it honestly. It's sad, but this is what I hear. People come to us because they feel like they're just getting completely fucked by their franchise, and it's honestly, it's like 99% of the time, this is the feeling. They're like, I was sold on this. This is what happened. And like you told me, systems and standards are missing. Well, someone buys into a franchise because they're trying to get a system and a standard. But then the franchises, and by the way, it's really interesting. I've been on so many calls where I'm talking to a franchisee, they connect me to their CMO, who is a big guy, I'm or girl, and just thinks I know it all, and they're trying to sabotage the deal, and they're really trying to prevent their franchisees from actually getting any outside help. So to our point from the very beginning of the conversation, it's like not only is the industry in general a little closed-minded, when finally someone in a franchise is trying to get outside help, the franchise is like, nope. Slaps their wrist and says, you can't do anything. Like, why is that? Like, what is it like they're insecure that they're going to find something better than the corporate's giving them? Like, this is crazy to me. Like, it's happened a lot. And this isn't like, a couple times. We're talking like 3, 4, 5, sometimes 15 times a month with us, this kind of situation. I mean, it's wild. It's
interesting. I have a really good friend of mine who manages multiple he has a concept and he has multiple units. And with him is, him and I talk about this a lot because at the height of my career, I managed almost 400 locations. And so, but it's like everything else. So even though I have the same systems for everybody, the same menu, we do the same, how to go to strategy, how to market strategy, we have same employment training, but where we need to look at, it's a human business. Yeah. And you probably see it within your employees. I can give somebody, sit them in front of the computer, say, this is what we need to do, make it better. And they run with it. And then you have somebody says, okay, can you give me a little guidelines? How much better do you want to do? How about where are my boundaries? And I see this also with franchisees. You can give somebody a manual, they run with it. And there's some of them that says, it doesn't make sense. Can you show me? Because they're visual learners.
Totally.
And and for me, I think that's the biggest, not just hurdle. They're trying to treat everybody the same. It's not. This is a human business, and certain people need maybe a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more support. Even though it's a system, it's their business. They
Yeah.
don't want to make decisions because it's their money. And sometimes I see people going into a franchise because I think they're buying themselves security, never realizing that it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
so for me, it's the end of the day. If you peel it back, this is a human business, and some people just need a little extra support, a little extra guidance, a little more explaining, and some of them need boundaries because they just want to run, because they want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And the challenge with master franchisees, they don't want to tamper with their brand because they think if they let this guy do, what is everybody else going to do? They're just going to run rogue on me, which is not the case. So I think there needs to be, and I always said, if I would start a franchise, I would have levels. There's this type of franchisee, which I know they're gonna add another park, but there needs to be some of the franchises you need to be able to challenge because they make your
Yes.
brand better. How can we get them in and make this a working partnership? And then there's some of them which should never be in the franchise, business, because they just don't want to put in the work it takes to run a business.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting though. And it's like, I like that a lot though, what you're mentioning, levels to franchisees. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Is that a common practice at all? I mean, I haven't seen it.
No, it's
It's
not. I mean, for me, I learned it. Like I said, I was in that position for 18 years, and we were on the hospitality side from a high education, which is a very predictable business. It's no
yeah.
different than any other franchise. I knew exactly when the students come. I will know when the students leave. There's 34 weeks in the school year. There's 17 in a semester. We know when the holidays are. We know all of that.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to come in and bring in a new guy and saying, hey, this is where you need to start cutting back on your purchases. This is where you need to start watching your staff because students move out and all the other stuff. So it's really easy to do that because too much history, what we
Yeah.
talked about earlier, you know?
Exactly.
But as a new guy, he could sit there and say, hey, okay, I understand, but how? Now is the opportunity. We going from pre-prepared stuff, we doing stuff a la carte, we do exhibition style. Now it's time to shine because now I can knock it out of the park because I have left students here. Let's service the shit out of the few we have. And sometimes, as the master owner saying, no, this is not, we don't want to do that kind of thing. So for me, I think there needs to be, and the way I treated all of our units like franchises.
Yeah.
And our thing was really simple. 75% are non-negotiables. You need to do what you need to, 75% non-negotiable, okay? You need to
Yeah.
stick to the program. The 25%, you need to incorporate something regional because that what makes you different.
Yeah.
It might be an ingredient, might be a bakery, there might be something else which kind of help you to make it regional. You become a real part of the community. And then there needs to be an opportunity for you to kind of give back because, how you're going to support your community to become an integrated part of the community.
Totally.
And that always was, let's give those people which want to have leadway and do more. Let's give them the 25% and let them run.
Yeah.
And then the other ones would say, no, I'm safe the way I am. Let them have the 75% be their 100%. And they just work within a confined space. But there needs to be an opportunity to localize and to be really part of a community. And I always use the example, especially when you get into the middle of the country, there could be a bakery which is in business for 5 generations, okay? The students come to that university. Within a year, they know this is a business, a stable business, which did amazing things for the community.
Yeah.
And you need to bring that into the school so you could really show them this is what we do. If you don't allow for that, I think you will frustrate a few people. But for me, I called it the 75-25. And it was highly successful for us.
I mean, well, it's interesting for me as the marketer and advertiser also to seal this because look, like I said, I mean, I wrote a book and I'm not afraid to admit it, right? I told you before. I mean, it's outdated. Like people still buy it and there's still a lot of value in that, but damn, are we doing completely different shit today than we did 4 years ago, right? Like completely different. And I'll just tell you right now, like I'm not gonna say the name, but was speaking with another franchise recently. And okay, I don't know if you know this. It's very interesting. And anyone listening, by the way, you can just do this also. It's kind of an interesting little hack. Not even a hack, but you can go to anyone's Facebook page, business page, any restaurant business page. And all you got to do is go to their about section. And then there's a section that goes page transparency. And you can just see all the ads they're running. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's open to the public because they did this after the Cambridge Analytica stuff. Like they wanted to be like transparent, whatever. Which, by the way, they had to, but those were the glory days before. Oh my God, you could get anything. The data was insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting off track. But what I'm saying is, you always can just like look at someone's stuff. Well, if we're talking a big brand, I always just want to look under the hood and see what's going on here. Like
Mm-hmm.
what ads are they running? 9 times out of 10, it's really bad. And I'll tell you an example. It's like national brand, let's just say hundreds of stores. They got one ad running with some offer. And to get that offer, you click, you go to the page. There's all this red tape to collect someone's information. Then you go and you select the store that's nearest to you. Then you go and do this other step. And I'm like, okay, just standard digital marketing like protocols. The more steps it has to take for someone to give you their information or opt in or whatever it is you're trying to do or pay for something even, right? The lower the conversions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just the standard. Like if it's harder to accomplish the goal, you'll get less of the thing you want. Just standards, right? Well, they're running like the same ad across the entire country. And then the franchisees are like, this, whatever you're doing is not working, but we have to give 2% of our budget towards this. And they're just like handcuffed. And these
Mm-hmm.
are situations that I'm like, I feel bad because I know that they're already in not the best margins that they'd like. And now they're giving another 2% to something that doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. It's sad to watch, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that, and I love the way you broke it down. And I encourage the listeners to go back a few minutes and do it, because it's so true. I like that kind of look behind the curtain a little bit, see what they
You
actually
can
do.
totally do it. I mean, when we were first coming up as an agency, I would look at all the other agencies. What ads are they running? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'll admit it again. Like I would just copy other people's ads in the early days, and now people copy my ads. And
Yep.
you know what? It's there for the taking, and there's nothing we can do about it. But let's go to like innovation. I know we talked about innovation through
Yep.
food fusion and stuff like that. What about like technology today? What are things that you see in the restaurant space that have really piqued your interest that maybe you've consulted some brands on that they should be
Yeah.
thinking about right now as it relates
So
to tech?
that's a really good question. So I'm a big fan of technology. So for me, I look at where AI is going to take us, from not just there's this technology. Let's from Italy. It's called Dimus. If you haven't check it out, is this headband you put on. If you eat something, the program is going to tell you if you like it or not. So even if this is really good, but really didn't like it, and it breaks
Interesting.
it down.
Sorry, can you spell that? How do you spell that?
So make sure I don't lie to you. It's Thiums, Timus. Yeah.
T Thimus.
Yeah. I might spell it. Yeah. Thimus, Timus. It's Mario is the CEO of that really, really cool technology. And so now when you do tastings, you exactly know what people like and what they don't like. Really cool stuff out there. And I think that's becoming even more hyperalized. I think if you go down next 5-10 years and looking at how wellness and AI move together, how
Yes.
great would it be? I have an app, and the app, I use Whoop to manage, measure my stuff.
Yes.
And how about Whoop tells me, hey, you're running low on this. This is what I recommend you need to eat. And so I think that's certainly coming. And then also
Interesting.
AI will change the way we write menus. How do dishes kind of compare? If you remember Watson, IBM's supercomputer not 20 years ago wrote a book, and they fed him all that data. And the first thing it spit out, it was an Austrian chocolate burrito, and then
Yes.
if you remember that. So I think AI is going to make this even a lot more. So for me, how about if the wearable you have kind of measures you what you're actually craving, and and
Interesting.
then it has that.
See,
And go
no,
ahead.
sorry. This is so good. I guess what I'm hearing too, just overall overarching is nutrition is starting to matter a lot more in
Yeah,
general.
absolutely. Absolutely. I honestly feel, so even looking back from, my years, people won't have healthy options, but they choose not to. I think there will be a point, and I'm not sure if this, but for me, if I looked in the crystal ball, how about there's a health insurance company which tells you, hey, you need to wear this thing. You need to eat what that thing tells you because it helps you lead a healthier lifestyle. But if you do this, your premium is going to be much smaller. People will jump
Wow.
up. And
That's incredible. I love that.
I honestly feel this is the direction we're going to go. I think this is going to be the same thing in driving. Hey, if you allow me to tap into your car based on your driving records for the last week, this is your premium next week. Hey, you overdid it last week. Your premium is higher next week because you screwed up last week. You know, kind of that hyper customization, I think, is coming to everything, and especially in the food. And then for
Wow.
me, it's, you know, AI. Look at it. There's AI ovens. There is a microwave which takes a picture of your food and it can tell this was cooked, this is not cooked, and provide different technology and amount of heat onto the products being cooked. I think that's, or it's just going to be hyper, you know, sped up. And for me, I think if you're asking me where it's going, in a few years, you will be able to go to a restaurant saying, hey, I want to have this, I want to have this on it, and I go there and it's done.
Got it.
And so that they don't have a menu anymore, they have ingredients, and the AI based on the ingredients in the house will help you build a dish.
Wow. Okay, so what do you think about the paper menu?
uh, paper menu is like the sword in war, you know. It had its purpose, not anymore. Because for me, my kids don't look at a paper menu. They think it's gross, it's dirty, and my kids hate when people put a sticker over out of that or sold out. I think AI is the way to go because it lets you customize, and also if there's a dish out, it's just not visible to consumer.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for saying this because this is what I preach on a regular basis, by the
Yeah.
way. I mean, that's what our product is, Dishio, right? It's
Yep.
it's a digital menu, and it's funny because the idea came around while I was in Brazil. I've actually talked about this on other podcasts too, but I was basically in Brazil. I'm on a date with my girlfriend, and I look at the menu, and the menu showed up in English.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. So I was like,
Yep.
why is this in English? Like, what's going on? And her menu is in Portuguese, but mine's in English. What's going on? I asked the waiter. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's a smart menu. It knows that the settings in your phone are in English and therefore it changed to English
Love that.
automatically." And I was
Love
like,
that.
"What the? Are you serious?" Like, and I was just so blown away and moved by it because that was so simple yet just such an incredible experience to have. And to your point, hyper customization, it is. I completely agree. It is coming like no other. You're going to view the menu.
Yep.
It's going to be in your language. It's going to know other restaurants maybe you liked. It's going to know your nutrition habits, dietary restrictions. God,
Yep.
I mean, one of my good friends, she has celiac, right? So she can't have gluten or she
Yep.
gets just terribly sick. And we go out all the time and you know, big groups of friends of ours and whatnot. And she's always asking, is this gluten free? The waiters don't know. 80% of the time they got to go check. And then she's always like, I'm just not
Yep.
going to do it. It's not worth it. It's just, there's always drama.
I don't want to take the risk. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But to
I
our
love
point
that
from our point from
because
the beginning, people still are just like a paper menu. No, that's me. I won't let it go. Like,
no, I think, you know, I call paper menus is, you know, it's great for decoration, not for actual use. Because as hyper personalization comes, look at Pepsi. Is it Pepsi or Coke? One of the two companies is working with Apple, where if I'm diabetic, if I go up to the machine, all the beverages I'm not allowed to drink, it automatically blocks out. So I don't even have the option to drink it. And, you know, I think that needs to happen. I love the idea of the gluten-free because as our technology from a medical improves, I think a lot more people realize, hey, I'm actually have a certain gluten intolerance. Maybe I'm just 15%, whatever the number is, you know, or hey, maybe I realized I'm actually allergic to sage. I never knew that kind of thing. And I honestly feel, you know, having a wife which leads a very healthy lifestyle, we don't go to certain restaurants because my wife doesn't trust them that they truthful on the
mm,
menu.
Yeah.
and having a digital product like yours can bypass that. How great if the consumer can go in and learn a little bit more. Hey, this is this is the oil we use. This is the stove we use, where you
Yes.
actually, make people not comfortable, but kind of, I think transparency is a good thing. And
Yes.
overall, if you look in the restaurant, the greatest thing the restaurant industry did is broke down the wall between the front of the house and the back of the house. It increased chefs' psychological, well-being, a
Wow.
hundredfold, because they knew, oh, I can't say certain things. Oh, I need to work cleanup because they're watching me. I can't curse at this guy. I can't do this. It overnight changed how restaurants in the back of the house worked.
I
And
never thought about that, but that makes so much sense. That's awesome.
and I think that's what, for me, I think that's what your product does for the paper menu. It exposes the paper menu, that people can lie under the paper menu and can write
Yes.
on what they want, and that your product is kind of the truth seeker. It's the outlier in the menu space.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, I'll show you real quick. Check this out. And
Yeah.
I apologize to purely the listeners who can't see this. But I'll walk you through it. So this is an example menu. We have Casa de Dineline.
Mhm.
If you click this button here, filter,
Yep.
you can filter the menu to only show you what you want. So I click gluten-free, I click show results. Now I'm only seeing gluten-free items.
Yep.
And this is a one feature of many that this product does, but it's really simplified this like you can't imagine, right? It's made things easier, right? A lot easier. And I think it's funny because I hear a lot of people say, back to it, like, I don't like the QR codes, blah, blah, blah. Well,
Yep.
we're talking about, let's say 3, 5, 6, 7 years out, maybe, right? God, I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know if you've seen Meta's smart glasses recently.
Yep.
Oh God. I mean, the things they're doing now, like I'm gonna call it right now, another prediction. We're all gonna wear glasses in the next
Yep.
4 or 5 years, and you're gonna look at a QR code and the menu's just gonna pop up on your glasses. I mean, and then you're still gonna want the paper menu. I mean, come on. It's the natural progression. I love your analogy of that. The paper menu is like a sword. It had a purpose, the sword in
Mhm.
war, but now we got something else.
Yeah,
Like,
we fight different. Look at
exactly.
the first bomber we just had out there, which is 100% unmanned, and it pulled stunts with 16, 17 Gs, which you couldn't do with somebody in the seat.
Yeah.
It's changing everything, and I think your product does exactly that. And for me, hyper personalization, what it also does is, with us, we eat out very little because of my wife's health condition.
Hmm.
Um, we would like to eat more. So your product becomes a reassurance for the diners, which really have to watch something. And I like, you had one of your filters was refined sugar.
Yes.
Hey, I just choose for whatever reason not to do refined sugar. How great would it be if every restaurant would have the capability to do
Isn't it
that?
crazy? Or we have seed oils too. Why is no one
Mhm.
talking about seed oils? Oh my God. America is fatter, more obese, and has more depression issues than ever in history. And we're wondering why. Like, it's
That's
crazy.
a whole separate. Don't get me going. It's a whole separate episode, because I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. I
Yeah.
I honestly feel that food has a huge part of your mental well-being,
Yes.
and also how we manage stress and how we do with what we do. So for me, that's a whole separate episode, but I couldn't agree with you more. And more people need to start using your product. So if there's a listener who hasn't checked out your product yet, hustle over there. Not even hustle, fucking run over there and get
Yeah. Thank
yourself
you.
signed up and become part of the
I
program.
appreciate that, man. Really appreciate it. I mean, it's been, yeah, it's been like a 2 year build for us at this point, which is, you never imagine it's going to be that long to build a truly great software product, but it's honestly what it's been one of the most fulfilling things I think I've ever done, because I mean, like you said, we got to save this for another episode, but I'm also very passionate about the nutrition space. I mean, you mentioned transparency was such a big thing. Our company mission and vision is literally to create tools that foster transparency and growth within the restaurant industry. That is what we're trying. That is really where we're aiming for. we're a marketing company that helps brands grow. We've gotten really good at it. But more than that, I mean, I truly, really want to make an impact for the better of our country and for the better of well-being of the world. It's not even just about growing a business, but like, hey, how do we grow a business and also foster that transparency between consumers, between the brands they love? I mean, it's like, God, it's a terrible analogy, but like, okay, I have these. I like this product I got recently called Knick Knack. It's
Yep.
like it's like these little nicotine things I throw in, and I helps me get through after
Mhm.
lunch on my workday, right?
Yep.
Um, I know these aren't good for me. Okay. And there's a label right there on the front. It goes, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Mhm.
I know it's not good for me. I'm choosing to have it because I can hustle with it. And I just learned this by myself. My girlfriend hates it. But it's I know that. But why doesn't the world know that seed oils are
Yep.
so bad or refined sugars are so bad? And they're, to your point, kind of hiding it, which kills
Yeah.
me
I,
inside.
I I honestly believe what is coming really, really quick, where AI is going to look at your calendar, you got to eat, and AI is going to tell you, hey, you have a big meeting coming up, eat this, not that. Hey, you
Mm,
have all of this, eat this, and that. Hey, you have a flight tomorrow, eat this, not that. And I think that's going to mesh between lifestyle and food. I think this is becoming seamless. I think AI in a very short period of time is gonna take over in how you consume food, because for me, I just read a study 2 weeks ago from Harvard where they were saying people which read data coming in about patients. So they had 85 doctors, I think they were oncologists, reading diagnosis from different patients, and they diagnosed what they had. They were like 40% or something
yeah.
accurate, and they were the best of the best.
Mm,
Currently, there's an AI program which is already, the accuracy is in the high 80s, low 90s. So who do you gonna trust in a few years? People or AI, which is a higher success rate. So for me, I think that's just the beginning, and it's coming into food. And I think it's not because consumer want to, because I think they're kind of being channeled into that. And
I
I
see.
and I always use the health insurance space. How about the way you currently have a credit score? I think there's gonna be a health score. If you get insurance, this is they're looking at it. If you get a certain car or if you do something else, I think people will start looking at that, because lifestyle, is a big component on how people, not just execute on a daily label of how they contribute to society.
Yeah. Man, I love that you mentioned this, but this is so interesting. I mean, I haven't even thought about this way. AI really, I'm not gonna say controlling, but just assisting and aiding and helping you make the right choices, specifically with nutrition, of course. God, so interesting. Random question. I
Yep.
know we talked a little bit about social apps earlier. What do you think about a social app specifically in the restaurant space? Have you come across any that you like? There's a lot of apps coming out right now that are trying to become something in that likings, but I haven't seen something that really has popped out. Have
Yeah,
you come
that,
across
that's a
any?
That's a really good question. I have not. I actually honestly haven't looked for one, but I actually think that's not coming from personal developers. I think to start with, it's going to come from the Apples of the world, from Googles of the world. But I think I'm sure somebody's working on it, and that's coming fairly quick.
Yeah.
Because again, for me, I go back. I track everything I do with Whoop, and I would love for Whoop to talk to something else and saying, "Hey, you just over stretched a little bit today, because my perfect range is about 20%, or 20 what they call, on how much strain you put on your system. So in
Yeah.
order to recover fast, I would be great to do that. And then also, how about if you put recommendations? So for me, I take NMN and transversal. That's my two things I take every day.
Mm.
um, where it could tell me, hey, you need to take this vitamin, you need to take this supplement today because you just overdid it today, and for better recovery and for more, not just mental alertness, but how do you can perform at a higher level? It would be great if somebody develops that. I'm sure if it is. And if somebody, if the listeners is, please comment below. And Brad and I are the first ones for signing up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, but this is interesting. The Whoop connection to a social platform to help you find a restaurant you're looking for. That's interesting. I love that, man. Well, I know we're kind of coming up on time here. I guess Christian, I mean, you're just so full of knowledge. You got so much great information. If someone's listening and they want to get more involved with you in particular, they want to find you online, what's the best way they can do that?
The best way is my website. It's christianjfischer.com, or one word. We brought everything in there from there, links out to everything we do. So check out our podcast, check out what we do. You can email me. My email is on the website. So if you go to Christian J. Fischer, everything lives there. We would love to welcome you in our space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then your podcast, again, The Disruptive Chef. Give us the name of it. The Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. So it's Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur is our podcast. We have a YouTube channel. There's all of our episodes out there. Even if we have a private group. We call it Disruptive Chef Club, which is our private community. We record this, and then after a month, we put that stuff out there. So we have, I think, 100 episodes we pushed out there on that space.
Amazing.
But we are here to inspire the culinary and hospitality world to think differently of the jobs, not just the way they use their jobs. How can they contribute at a higher level?
100%. I love that, man. Well, really cool stuff. Christian, thanks for your time today, man. This has been incredible. And I know we're planning now, I'm going to be on your podcast now on the 25th, we decided.
Be on my podcast on the 25th. So if people haven't done so, make sure you earmark it in. We're going to have some really cool conversation. And then because of who he is, we're going to have rapid fire questions. So you will not see the questions. My team is going to put a few questions together.
I love it. I love it.
It's gonna, so it's gonna be a really good time. And, Brad, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and to our listeners, thanks for listening that long. Hopefully, there was some value you gotten from today's conversation. And if you need anything, you know where to find us.
Absolutely, and I'll be sure, guys, listening to this episode now, we'll put all the links below this episode so you can easily access what he was talking about. Again, Christian, thank you so much for your time today, man. This has been incredible, and looking forward to chatting in just a couple of weeks. We'll go from there.
Yeah, same here. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.